right, everybody. Let me take my glasses off because I just was doing some tweeting before I came on the channel. Because you all follow me on Twitter. It's at a strong dream on Twitter. I do a lot of tweeting. I repost the videos because I got over 100 of them on the channel now. And I talk about my book. And I retweet other good stuff that I find. It's interesting. If you're on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. You'll like it. And I did a whole series last night of people talking about races and what they did throughout history. I got one guy. He says, "Hey man, even though them white folks, them races, let's call them half races. They were half races. They wanted black people to have the freedom, but at the same token, they didn't want to live with black people. So they half races, let's call it. I got one guy, I did a video, he talks about what white folks was thinking and why they justified racism. And they used religion to do it. I got another video, I asked this black guy, I said, man, he said he saw a cross burning. I say, why in the heck would you burn a cross and you call yourself a Christian? That makes no sense to me. So check me out on Twitter. It's at the letter A, Strong Dream. Let me tell you something else. I'm so excited to have this gentleman on my show today. Let me tell you how I met him. I was at an event a week ago. You know, I'm in Detroit. Oh, let me start and say this. I'm Anthony Brogdon, if you didn't know. I forgot to tell you because I'm going at it. And my man, he waiting patiently, but come on, bro, let me tell this story. So I'm at a video, at a tombstone dedication here in Detroit for a guy who was a very well-known, one of the best of all time bass players of the Motown era. The thing that I found so interesting about the brother, it was 95 degrees out and he had a suit on. And I said, man, how you doing that? I'm sweating watching him in the suit and he was cool the whole time. This brother is cool. He was cool the whole time. So I'm so happy he's on the channel. Let me tell you one more thing that I got going here, everybody. I'm putting up new videos each week. You need to subscribe to this channel and it's free. I'm doing 3-4 videos that I post each week. I'm about to post another one in another hour and a half. I keep coming at you strong, straight, no chasing. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this video because I got an angle on this man and he gonna be able to handle it. He gonna tell his story. I want you to like it, subscribe, hit the notifications bell when these videos come out because I put them out anytime I feel like it. You get a ding. And then tell somebody about Strong Inspirations. And I know people are telling because I get messages that, hey, man, you own to something. I'm doing an interview of a lady out of Australia. You can't get no further than that from America. Gonna tell some Black history stories. That's coming up real soon. It'll be on the channel. I want you to do a couple more things. You know, I got and I don't have it right here, but I got a movie out. It's called Business in the Black, The Rise of Black Business in America, talking about how slaves went to college, Black millionaires in the 1800s. And it ain't just Madam C.J. Walker, my friends. It's some other women. And I name them in my movie. 75 minutes long, it's powerful. You're streaming on Amazon. Watch this. And then I wrote this book. It's called Black Business Book. It's got over 200 facts, similar to the movie, but man, I'm telling you, I blow you away. I blow you away so much that if you read my book and you don't learn nothing new, I give your money back. You ever had a book with a money back guarantee? Here it is. And every 10th book I sell, I donate one to a school. Because I didn't learn this in school. My school, I went to a Black public school, and I don't remember hearing these stories, slaves owning businesses. slaves doing their thing in that way, and then using the profits to buy their freedom. I don't remember hearing that. Maybe I was asleep in that class, and I was a pretty good student. I like Black history. One more thing, two more things. I'm having a festival in Quindaro, Kansas, Memorial Day weekend 2022. Me, little old me, I'm in touch with the people down there. We're gonna have a party in a barn on Friday. Saturday, we're gonna have tours of Quindaro and a picnic with vendors and live entertainment and speakers and eating some Quindaro food. It's gonna be huge. And then Sunday, we're gonna have a church service where we're gonna pray and pour libations over where them slaves walked across the pond from Missouri to get to Quindaro. Look up Quindaro, and you can look it up because there's a video on my channel. Lastly, my man is waiting. I got one more thing to say to y'all, my friends. I say that word strong a lot. Well, strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. That's my introduction to the brother on the channel, because he's a strong man. You watch and see, because he can wear a suit in 95-degree weather, and he was looking good doing it. He ain't even sweat. So, okay, introduce yourself. Let's get it on. Thank you for coming on the channel.
Thank you for inviting me. My name is Jason Miccolo Johnson.
And you're in where, may I ask?
Right now, I'm in Savannah, Georgia. I'm living in Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah, Georgia. Where are you from?
Originally, I grew up in Memphis, and then I moved to Washington, D.C. in 1980 when I transferred to Howard University, and I stayed in Washington, D.C. up until 2019. Then I moved down here on a permanent basis.
Oh, so when you say transferred to Howard, did you work at Howard? Did you study at Howard? What's the Howard connection?
Yeah, I graduated from Howard. I was in the program at Memphis State University, and I transferred from that college to Howard University, where I graduated with a degree, BA degree in journalism.
Now, that was pretty big to go from Memphis State as a white school.
Right. It was about 20% African American. So, you know, that was a good population size. And for that particular time period, we're talking about the late 70s.
Yeah.
But it was nothing compared to Howard University. It's one of the best decisions I ever made.
I can't imagine. I say the same thing because my daughter is a graduate of Howard. And about 2 years ago, and she said she had got accepted to Hampton and some other schools. I said, I don't care where you got accepted. You got accepted to Howard. That it's on.
Right.
And that's where she ended up going. Now, when let's go back a little bit further. When you talked about growing up in Memphis, you remember seeing some of that strife in Memphis, some of that racial stuff in Memphis?
Oh yeah, I grew up during the time of the sanitation workers strike, and that led Dr. King to ultimately come there to lead a march, and where he ended up giving his life. I was raised about, I'd say about 2 miles away from the Lorraine Motel.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you walked past it, you saw it all the time?
Oh yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah. I used to walk there because I was close enough. I could walk downtown, and I'd walk past all those places like that because it was right off of Main Street, and you walk past a lot of businesses. And you know, when you're walking, you get a chance to see a lot more than when you're riding.
Oh, sure.
Because you're seeing it one block at a time. And people forget that that was a Black-owned motel.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Lorraine Motel was a Black-owned motel downtown. So it's about, I want to say, about 6 blocks from Bill Street. So it was at the beginning of the downtown area, right behind the fire station. And as a motel, you know, the difference between a motel and a hotel is that the motel is short for motor hotel. So people drove there and they parked their cars out front.
Right.
And that's why you have that outdoor balcony.
Right.
Whereas a hotel typically have interior balconies and lobbies, and you don't
Right.
have to come to the outside. So the thing about motels is there's one door, one way in, one way out. And so a person can stand there and watch you and know that that's the only door you got to exit and enter.
Did okay, well, since you're on there, what was that on a street where other black businesses, the hotel and that kind of thing? It was the anchor of the community.
Well, I'd say in that neighborhood, it was the anchor of the community because a lot of entertainers and people who came to the city, business people, when they couldn't stay anywhere else, before they could stay anywhere else, they stayed at the Lorraine Motel. Now, in recent years, places like the Holiday Inn became more welcoming for travelers of all races. And so if you go back and examine the history of a lot of Blacks, particularly if they traveled on the road and had means, many of them stayed at the Holiday Inn because the Holiday Inn has always been welcoming to African Americans. In fact, the founder of Holiday Inn is from Memphis.
Is that right? Oh,
Yeah,
man.
Kimmons Wilson.
Oh, but and then Memphis. Okay, how about this? I'm gonna stay on this Lorraine Hotel for a second.
Yeah, motel. Lorraine
Uh,
Motel.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
motel. And so all the civil rights people came through and they stayed there.
Right.
Did you ever see any of them, like as a eager young man, go by there and just kind of hang out and see what was the happenings over there, that kind of thing?
No, I was too young at that time. I was 11 years old.
Okay.
So if I was coming downtown, I was going straight to my destination. You know,
Yeah, I got you.
my aunt worked downtown at a prescription shop. See, before you had places like Walgreens and CVS Pharmacy and
Yeah.
Rite Aid, you had mom and pop pharmacies that were sprinkled throughout the community and throughout the downtown area. So there was
Yeah.
one pharmacy that a white woman owned named Miss Mary, and it was called Miss Mary's Prescription Shop. And my aunt worked as a cashier there, and she also took deliveries of medicines to clients in the downtown area. So if a person comes to work, they're working downtown, they call over and she would deliver their prescription to them.
I got you. Let me ask you this. What were you in Memphis when Dr. King was killed?
Yes.
Do you remember what happened when you heard it? Did people flock to Lorraine to see what was going on, or?
No, I remember exactly where I was and that whole evening. It's just etched in my mind. We had been out grocery shopping with my aunt's sister, because at that time my aunt did not drive and we didn't have a car. And so she would have to get people to carry her or go with her whenever she went shopping. Usually it was with her sister. And we came back from the grocery store. We heard it on the radio while we were driving back from the grocery store. And when we got home, the first thing we did was turn on TV to check the progress, because initially it said Dr. King had been shot. And that just sent shockwaves through everybody's heart. And, you know, you start wishing for the best, that, you know, he would live and pull through. And by the time we got home and turned on the evening news, there were bulletins flashing on the TV, on all the channels, that Dr. King had died. And within days, I mean, you had rioting started, and you had the National Guard called out. And I remember the National Guard in their patrols riding up and down the street in Black neighborhoods. So it was perilous times. And then, you got to remember now, this is during the sanitation workers strike. And that strike,
what's the backstory behind that then?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Many people don't talk about that. They talk about Dr. King coming to help out the sanitation workers, but they don't know why.
Right.
Well, they were ununionized. They had no rights. And in those days.
Hold on, back up a little before. When you say sanitation workers, who are you talking about? The garbage pickup people?
Yeah, garbage people. People pick
Okay,
up the garbage from the curbside.
I got you. Okay, go ahead.
Except now in this time, 1968, they picked up the garbage from your backyard.
Right, right.
So they had to go to your backyard, and if you had a gate or fence, open your gate and all that, pick up and these are aluminum cans. These are big aluminum cans.
I got you.
This is before plastic cans. And they had to lift it up over their head, on their shoulder, and those cans sometimes leaked, and all the drippings and stuff would come down on them. So it was putrid. It was horrible. They could not go to the bathroom at the headquarters where the bus dock, when all the not the bus dock, but with the sanitation trucks where they come back to the headquarters to park.
Right.
And or if they were on lunch break, they had nowhere to go for bathroom breaks because of segregation. And previously to Dr. King coming there, a man had gotten killed sitting on the back of one of those trucks. You know how the trucks get the garbage and it rolls up?
Yeah.
A guy got crushed inside. He was sitting in there eating his lunch on the back of that truck, and somebody started it up. And so his body got handled just like trash. So all of that is taking place. And this strike had gone on for weeks. So now they weren't picking up garbage. So all around the city, people holding their nose. I mean, it's smelly every community you go into.
I got you.
All right. Black or white. And this was a set of demands that they had, and they were approaching the city council and the mayor to negotiate with them for better treatment, first, because this is a city-owned, the city owned the sanitation workers.
Right, I got you.
All that. And they wouldn't negotiate with them. They just asking for better wages. I think at that time they were making, if memory serves me correctly, less than $1 an hour, like 75, 85 cents an hour. So they were asking for better wages. They were asking for better conditions, somewhere to go eat their lunch and use the bathroom, like the white truck drivers. And see, the other thing is that there were normally 3-man crews. There's 2 guys on the back, hanging off the back, who jumped off and picked up the trash. And then there was a driver. Now the driver was the most prestigious job because he never had to get out and
right, sure,
hustle into it.
The
drivers at this time were all white. All the black guys were doing the heavy lifting. Literally.
I got you.
Yeah.
So they had a strike. Dr. King got heard of it. He comes to town.
Yes, he was invited there by Reverend James Lawson, who I interviewed for my upcoming book, Legends of Our Lifetime, 75 Black Men Who Influenced America. So Reverend Lawson was a prominent minister. He ascribed to the Gandhi teachings, and he invited Dr. King there. Reverend Lawson had been in Nashville years ago during the time of the Nashville sit-ins in the early 60s and the late 50s.
Right.
And he was teaching up there at one of the universities. That's when John Lewis got introduced to him.
Right.
John Lewis was in Nashville at the time. So he influenced the early SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee people, because they had a sit-in movement in Nashville,
right.
Early protests before the February 60 boycott and sit-in movement in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Right.
So this was before that in Nashville.
Okay.
But see, Nashville their government quickly adhered to the demands of the protesters. And so you never had the violence in Nashville. So they started letting people come into the stores to try on clothes and things like that. I mean, it was so bad in the 60s. I mean, you could do a whole show on how bad it was in the 60s. You could go into a store, but you couldn't try on the clothes.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
You couldn't put a hat on. You couldn't put shoes on. And so there were only certain stores, and usually they were Jewish or German stores, that would allow Black people to come in to try on things before they purchase it. You couldn't eat at the lunch counters,
Right.
places like Kresge or Woolworth,
Right.
that had lunch counters inside the department stores with
Right.
long counters
Right.
and row after row of stools. And so it was really, really bad, but we had just accepted it so long as status quo
Right.
that people tolerated it and they adjusted to it.
Right. Now it's kind of amazing, and I didn't know this, but when you hear of Dr. King and the battles that he took on, you really thought they were all just civil rights issues. The sanitation worker was a civil rights issue because it was Black people, but it was more of an employment type issue. Isn't that a different dynamic, say?
Yes, that was more of a labor issue.
Yeah, exactly.
But it all dealt with human rights, civil rights, and the dignity of man. And that's why the most famous and enduring sign that came out of the civil rights movement was the sign that said, "I am a man. I am a man."
Right.
I mean, that's as basic as it gets.
That's
now
right.
we know about the Black Lives Matter sign.
Right.
But prior to that, 1968, they just saying, "Hey man, I'm a man like you. I got a family. You know, I want to live."
All right.
It's just that basic. I am a man, and that slogan came from William Lucy, who became one of the highest ranking African Americans in the history of the labor movement.
Now, let me let's stay on this Dr. King thing just for a second. When the guy who killed him, was he from Memphis?
No.
So he came there looking to do this, as all people consider.
Right, and got a room in a rooming house behind the fire station, sort of adjacent to the fire station. It was the fire station was on Main Street. In Main Street, like in most cities, particularly small cities, once you find Main Street, it is literally and figuratively the main street in the city.
I got you.
It usually runs right through the heart of the city, and in this case, downtown area.
I got you.
So Main Street runs down the middle of downtown Memphis. And there's an area there where
where did he shoot from? Did he shoot from the ground, or was he up high?
He was up high, according to one theory, looking out I think the bathroom window of the rooming house. So he got a room at this rooming house, and he was up on a high enough floor. I forget now whether it was the second or third floor, but it wasn't much higher than that because it's a rooming house, boarding house. I got you. And he had a clear view of the balcony to the Lorraine Motel, because you remember now I said all the motels in that time period, you got one way in, one way out. And anybody got a clear view of who's going in those rooms and coming out of those rooms. And I got you. And there's nothing blocking, stopping a bullet.
One more question on this. Is that room that he shot from, is that a part of the tourist attraction?
Yes. What happened was this Black-owned motel was bought and became part of the National Civil Rights Museum.
Right.
And so they incorporated that structure and built around it. So that room is preserved. It's sealed off, glass enclosed. Last time I was there, glass enclosure with a reef on it. And there's a plaque, telling you what happened there. And one of the types of cars that would normally be parked there in 1968, I'm not saying that was the exact car, but a replica of the car of that time period is still parked down below on the ground floor, right below the third floor room that he was in.
Now, this all this Memphis and Howard University shaped you as a person somehow.
Yes, and particularly the killing of Dr. King. So I wanted to use my talents and skills in some way that would honor Dr. King's legacy and contribute back to the Black community. That was important to me. And Howard University gave me that foundation, number one. Number two, it gave me the inspiration. And number three, it gave me the mentors. I mean, now think about this. I literally came to Washington, D.C. on January 1, 1980. So I'm starting a new decade off at Howard University. Now, within 3 months, from between January and March, I end up going to Greensboro for an anti-Klan demonstration march, dealing with, that's when I first got introduced to Ben Chavis. I did a radio remote report, went to in those days, a phone booth, and called back to a radio station to give a report on it, because a young lady in my class was a reporter for that radio station, but she could not make it to that event. And so I got on one of the charter buses and went to Greensboro, and she gave me the phone number to call back into the radio station and give a report. So I did a radio report.
Let me stop you right there. Was you scared when you went down there? That something could happen?
I wasn't scared, but I was cold. It was extremely cold down there.
Okay.
And I didn't have, I did not have enough clothes to keep me as warm as I would like to have been.
I got you.
That same month of February, I got, this is the first time I'd heard about Ashland, by Carter G. Woodson.
Yeah, ASALH. Right.
Yes. So every month they kick off the Blackhistorymonth, as it is now. Of course, it started as Negro History Week. Yeah, Sala. It started out as Negro History Week. It was just a week. And people say sometimes now, well, why did they pick the month with the shortest amount of days? Well, he picked February that week to commemorate Douglas and Lincoln, Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln's birthday. And a week was a long time in those days to just talk about Black history. And then it expanded to Negro History Month or Black History Month. So I was introduced to Rayford Logan, one of the great historians who wrote a book about Howard University, the first 100 years, through this Asher program, because my history teacher told me to come to the program, to the gala, and I could eat free. And you know, in college, that's important. So I went to every gala where they had food. And I photographed Rayford Logan and some other notables. Now, I didn't know who he was at the time, but I do know that when your instructors tell you to come, bring your camera and take pictures of this person, that person, you do it. Okay. Now, looking back, I'm so happy that I did. Okay, right after Valentine's Day, I think it was the 15th of February, James Baldwin came to Howard University Law School to give a speech. And I was trying to get on the newspaper staff, the Hilltop. And so I asked them if I could go and interview him. And they said yes. So I went and interviewed James Baldwin. And then the end of March, I think it was March 30th. And the reason I know these dates is because I kept a journal my first year because of a class that I took, Psychology of Persuasion. And he said, we want y'all to keep a journal. All the students keep a journal. Right. I'm so happy he gave that assignment to us, because I can actually go back now and tell you exactly what I did on almost every date the first semester that I transferred there. Well, fast forward, and this all dovetails into my career. Right. That's when I met Gordon Parks. I was introduced to Gordon Parks. Another one of my instructors who became my lifelong mentor, Samuel F. Yett, who wrote the book, The Choice, had worked with Gordon Parks at Life magazine. And they were very good friends. And so Gordon came through when he was on book tour. To Smile in Autumn had just come out. And so I have pictures of me the first time I'm meeting Gordon Parks. And the rest is, as they say, history. And later on, some 30 years later, we would end up working on another book together, Songs of My People, that he wrote the introduction to.
You and Gordon did.
Gordon wrote the introduction to
Yeah.
Songs of My People. I was one of the photographers in Songs of My People. That's the first book that I ever worked on. And then later, about 10 years later, when my book came out, he wrote the foreword to my book, Soul Sanctuary.
So you used, so this goes into it, everybody. So what he's saying is, and you can, yeah, okay, there it is. I love it. We're going to put that in the description and everything.
Yeah. And so people ask me, they said, man, how'd you get Gordon Parks to write the introduction to your book? I said, well, I've known him since 1980. And also in 2002, so Soul Sanctuary came out in 2006. In 2002, Gordon turned 90 years old. And 3 months prior to his birthday, which is November 30th, and mine is November 21st, I asked him if I could coordinate a birthday tribute to him. And I wanted to bring together 90 of the top African-American photographers together in New York to celebrate his birthday. And we were going to do this group photo similar to the one you probably seen on these posters, A Great Day in Jazz, with all the jazz greats. So we did that. We recreated something like that with 90 of the baddest Black photographers in the country, from journalism, from fashion, from movie stills, you know, all the things that Gordon did. Those were the photographers that I wanted to bring together. And many of them already had books. They had major exhibitions. 3 of them had been White House photographers. And at that time, one of them was the chief White House photographer under Bush 43, we call him, Bush the second. Mm-hmm. And we brought all of them together. We had a dinner in his honor. I invited Dick Gregory to come up. Dick Gregory talked for about 30, 45 minutes, just had everybody rolling, because I wanted to honor him. And I asked him afterwards how he enjoyed himself. And he said, this is one of the greatest events of his life. And I later found out from people who knew him well that he had never been honored by Black photographers.
That was huge.
Yeah, it was huge.
So your career as a photographer, you took pictures as a freelance. You put them in magazines. What did you do?
Yeah, so going back to high school, I started in high school. My coaches helped me. My art teacher was Mr. Hunt. Mr. Hunt is a renowned painter, and he taught me art in the 8th grade. So I started taking pictures on the newspaper staff. I took journalism in the 9th grade and 10th grade. So I was working on newspaper staff, and I was doing work for our yearbook. In fact, I was published, I had the back cover of the yearbook the year prior to me graduating in 1973. So I graduated in 1974, and within 3 months, I enrolled into I joined the Navy, and I became a Navy photographer. So that was my rate in the Navy, was a photographer's mate. So I get out of the Navy, did 3 years, come back home, go to Memphis State for 2.5 years, then transfer to Howard. And that's where my career took off at Howard University, being in Washington, D.C., covering the Congressional Black Caucus. I did that for over 30, 35 years. In the early days of the Black Caucus, you could fit them all into one ballroom. I mean, they were only
I've gone 15, 20 times. I don't miss that one.
And so it's huge now. They have a large convention center and multiple hotels to host all the events. Right. Well, in 1980, there probably was somewhere in the neighborhood about 15 or 20 Black congressmen and women. So now they have over 50. Right. Including 3 senators.
Right. So let me ask you this question. When you talk about what kind of camera did you use? Did you have to develop your own film and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, here's the funny thing about it. Initially, when I started out, I was taking pictures of my classmates at school using a Polaroid camera. In Polaroid, you only get 8 films inside of it, and it's instant. You pull it out, I charge $1 a picture. So everybody called me the picture man. And I progressed to using a twin lens reflex camera that one of the coaches had gotten from the guy who had the yearbook contract. He said, look, I need you to leave a camera. We got a student here who's very much interested in photography. He needs a camera to work with. So that was the first professional camera I got. And then later, one of the teachers, a biology teacher, saw me taking pictures around the school, being at the assemblies. I would go all the sporting events. I mean, I was everywhere. And he showed me his camera, called me into his office, and he had a 35 millimeter rangefinder, a Yashica GS. And I never would forget it. And he let me use his camera. And he gave me my first photo assignment. He said, look, take my camera for a day. I want you to go out all around the school, and I want you to photograph the prettiest girl in the school. Isn't that a great assignment? So I came back and we got the film processed and developed, that kind of thing. In those days, you had to go to the drugstore to get the film developed, and it usually take 3 days. So I would run down to the drugstore, literally, during my lunch break. It was about 2 miles away, and then come back on my lunch break in time for class. So I skip lunch, drop the film off, and then 3 days later, go back and pick it up. And I started taking pictures. So I moved from Polaroid now to film camera, in which now I've got 36 images on a roll of film. So even if I make a mistake, I said, if 30 of those come out, that's $30.
I got you.
With Polaroid, it was only 8 films, and if I got all 8 perfect, I was only going to make $8. And
I
film,
got you. I got you.
$2.99. Film was $3. Plus, you needed flash cubes, and it was only about a 50% profit margin. But when it went to film, oh, mister, I had about a 500% profit margin.
Yeah, I got you.
That's how I got my start.
And so what can you give us an idea of some of your more memorable Black history photos of people that you've taken?
Oh yeah. And you can probably see that partial list behind me here up on the wall. I've put up these large, I call it Post-it notes, with over 200 of my most memorable photos. But the most memorable one for me was photographing Thurgood Marshall in his office in the Supreme Court. With
Whoa!
Yeah, he was there with, or Dr. Height was there at my request, and she got me in, Dr. Dorothy Irene Height, who was head of the National Council of Negro Women. She was a successor to Mary McLeod Bethune. And so I photographed the two of them in his chambers and got a few pictures of him individually, which is rare because he never gave interviews, never did photo shoots. And he said he only set for the photographer who did the official Supreme Court photos. He had about 2 minutes and then he was going to get up. So that was a rare honor, and it's probably my most famous picture to date that nobody's really even seen yet.
Oh, really?
Along the way, other memorable pictures. Of course, I covered 6 presidential inaugurations, including the 2 Obama inaugurations. A great photo I took of Rosa Parks, Coretta Scott King, Daisy Bates together at NAACP convention with Benjamin Hooks, who's from Memphis, when he was over the NAACP. Another shot I have of Coretta Scott King and Betty Shabazz and Mrs. Clinton together. I covered the Million Man March, photographed Minister Farrakhan, and I've got hundreds of pictures of Reverend Jesse Jackson. And most of the people in the civil rights movement I have photographed, from Joseph Laurie, C.T. Vivian, John Lewis, Andrew Young, Marion Barry, James Lawson, Julian Bond, Harry Belafonte, you name it. We would save more time if we talked about who I have not photographed.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. I love it.
Yeah.
How about this one? Have you ever had some instance where your life was in danger though, taking a picture where you was at a rally or march and something took place where, you know what I'm asking?
Yeah. I try to avoid those type of situations, but I was covering a protest rally at Howard University, ironically. And it was the students had taken over the administration building.
Yeah.
And they were sitting, there was not only students, but there were people in the community that come out to join with them. And so they blocked off one of the main streets that lead up to the campus, that leads to the main gate. And they were sitting on the pavement, in the street.
Yeah.
And I'm photographing it, and some little kids, couldn't have been more than like 9 or 10 years old, tried to grab my camera and take it from me. And that was a bit precarious, because what do you do in that case? If you punch them out, then you're gonna get jumped on for people gonna say, well, this guy's beating up little kids.
Yeah.
But I couldn't let them take my camera because I got too much invested in that.
Yeah. Oh, sure, sure.
I learned to cover things from perimeters. And they used to always tell us in the business, because I went on to work for USA Today and freelance for them, but they would tell us to stand on the side of the police where the protection was, or whoever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now, you as we kind of come to a close, you got some work in the Smithsonian, don't you?
Yeah, I have 50 photos from Soul Sanctuary book in the permanent collection. And Soul Sanctuary, Images of the African American Worship Experience, was a documentary I did from 1995 to 2005, in which I went across literally 25 states, visited some 200 churches, and it tells the story visually of a day in the life of the Black church and a year in the life of the Black church in its programmatic calendar. So things from annual celebrations all the way down to Palm Sunday, Easter Sunday, and then ending with watch night service on December 31st. And these images are all interwoven, but they're intergenerational, they're interdenominational, and they're intergeographic. And so
when you say it's in the Smithsonian, what does that mean? We can go and look online, or
you can look online.
What does that mean?
So
yeah.
Anywhere in the world, people can Google, as soon as they hear this broadcast, they can Google my name, Smithsonian Collection, and all 50 of the photographs will come up, thumbnails with a description of the photo, when it was taken, where it was taken. Or you go to the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, the latest one that was built, that opened in 2016.
Right.
And on the top 3 floors, they have some of my images displayed.
Oh, really? Okay, I love it.
With my name and everything attached to it. From one of them is the former bishop of Church of God in Christ, G.E. Patterson. There's a picture of him in there, and different churches. It's very inspirational, to take
I love it.
To the museum and they can actually see the work.
As we come to a close, is there a question I have not asked you, or something that you thought you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I just want to mention what I'm working on now, because
please.
It is a project that I've spent 14 years on, and it's a book that is that I anticipate bringing out next year, 2022, and it's called Legends of Our Lifetime: 75 Black Men Who Influenced America. And it's men that I've not only interviewed and photographed, but they're from all different walks of life. So sports, John Carlos, from the '68 Olympics with the Dr. John Hope Franklin, Marion Barry, musicians, Wynton Marsalis, Clark Terry, Amal Jamal, writers, Ernest Gaines, who wrote the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, actors, Lou Gossett Jr. So it is a phenomenal book, and I'm set to interview, and I'm looking forward to meeting the first Black astronaut, Guy Bluford, and putting him in the book as well.
Okay.
So people will want to purchase this book to share it with their kids and other generations, because a lot of times our kids do not know these people.
Sure.
They're famous to us now,
Sure.
but they're forgotten a year or two after they die.
Sure.
And
Sure.
this will at least give you one book with 75 people in it, all Black men who have done phenomenal things, from inventions to engineering.
Yes,
to
I love it.
politics.
I love it.
So
Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on Strong Inspirations and sharing these stories, talking about growing up in Memphis and sharing that giving a little more insight, because I always kind of wondered how that happened.
Right.
When I mean that what happened to Dr. King, because it looks like they're pointing up in the picture.
Yes.
But they're just pointing at where they know the bullet had come from.
Yeah, where they heard the sound coming from.
Where they heard the sound coming from.
It was a boarding house.
Yeah.
Right across.
I always wondered that.
Balcony.
My brother, I thank you again for coming on the channel.
Anthony, my pleasure, man. Good meeting you.
Yeah, this has been good. Everybody, this is what I do with Strong Inspirations. I come up with some people, I tell you, and I let them do the talking, man. I don't know where we was going with this, and my man went somewhere good. And I'm gonna stay in contact with you for sure. Everybody hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this video, because I know you didn't know all of what he was saying. And you know, check this out, everybody. I don't know if he's listening to me. This guy is a living legend. How about that? I don't know if he's listening to me or not, but he's a living legend. Right? He's a bad dude. Come on and you know, read my book, watch my movie, tell somebody about Strong Inspirations, where we give it to you straight, no chaser. And so to you, my brother, I want to say with all sincerity, I want you to stay strong. I want you to stay safe. Stay on your grind. I love what you're doing, putting in, documenting all this history, putting it in book form, movie form, and putting it in collections and so on and so forth. Keep doing it and educating them students down there at the college. Letting them know.
Absolutely. We didn't talk about my teaching part, but that's an important part of my life now, is giving back through teaching at Savannah State University, teaching African Americans in the media, teaching photography, and my work has been in videos too, documentaries, Boss, The Black Experience in Business, Stanley Nelson documentary. I'm in that film, and my work is in the film, the Clarence Avant story, The Black Godfather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, bad dude. I told you, you're a legend, everybody. So with that, I say, you know, we out. Have a good day. Stay strong. Stay on your grind. Do what you're doing. Peace.
Peace
Bye-bye.
out.